Hello and welcome everybody to a very special edition of the Buy Round. We are recapping State of Origin 1, season 2024, taking on everything that happened in that win by Queensland, 38 points to 10. I am joined by Craig Wing, who will be representing New South Wales, and the King, Wally Lewis, representing Queensland. Lads, there's only one place to start. Queensland are up 6-0. Around about the 7th minute of the contest. Queensland shift to their left-hand side. Reece Walsh out the back on that sweep play, looking to create a 3-on-2 opportunity. Joseph Suaali'is is jamming in defence, which a lot of teams do in order to shut down players like Reece Walsh when they sweep out the back of shape. You could make an argument that Reece Walsh is bracing for impact and lowers his body height and then therefore his head height. But Joseph Suaali'is' shoulder rattles Reece Walsh's head in a sickening tackle, which nobody in the game wants to see. Subsequently, he is sent off. Ashley Klein calls over Jake Trbojevic, says, "I don't want to hear anything from you." He is gone. You could make a case for it didn't just end the game, or the game was over then, but perhaps the series as well. What are your thoughts on what transpired in that 7th minute?
Well, I think the game's bosses have done their level best to make the game a lot fairer, take out the illegal incidents of the game, which aren't good as a promotional vehicle. Could the referee have made another decision? Well, I guess he could, but there would have been instant claims, certainly from the Queenslanders, that you said you weren't going to tolerate any illegal plays. But pretty much it was a case of from that moment on, I thought Queensland probably thought that they were in total control, and it was theirs to take control of and go through. It was a sad incident for rugby league, because I'm sure that the game will hear more about the send-off and the high hit rather than the skills that were on display throughout the course of the game. But if there's one thing, I'm probably glad I'm not a referee in a position like that. Ashley Klein came out with pretty much a statement that just pushed away the New South Wales captain and just said, "I've made the decision. He's off. He's gone." And for a lot of people, from that moment, the game was over.
Wingy?
Yeah, it was a horrific-looking tackle. And firstly, let me start by saying I love what rugby league is doing to take head knocks seriously, because it is a very serious issue, and trying to take the malice out of the game and those intentional high tackles. But in all honesty, I don't think it was an intentionally high tackle. No. They had a bit of luck down that side, caught the guys out on New South Wales guys out on the right-hand side by that exact play. And obviously their defensive game plan was, if they do start to shift, you've got to jam up and harden in, which is generally what you do. And he missed them on the first time, and he obviously tried to get him on the second time. Look, every single run and every single tackle, particularly in Origin, you're trying to hurt the opposition. But that's just it's just a physical impact thing. You're not actually trying to go out and knock their head off. You got to remember, Suaali'is 6'5" or 6'6", and Reece Walsh is not the tallest player, and he was actually falling into it. I've been on the receiving end of tackles like that at times, and I've also been on the giving end of it. And it actually is just an accident, right? Yeah. If you have a look at it in slow-mo, he's rushed up, he's made the decision to commit to the tackle, he plants his feet, turns his face away, and the level that, when he turns his face away, the level that Reece Walsh is at, it probably would have hit him around the ball, but just the fact that he dropped 6 inches, it's hit him across the chest. But look, obviously New South Wales needed to be penalised for that. But I just think the penalty was way too harsh.
Do you think? I don't think anyone can make a case to say that it was deliberate, but the fact that it was an accident, should that matter?
The problem is this is a full contact sport, and Origin is the most contact that you're ever going to face in any arena. Accidents are going to happen. I think there should be some delineation between, what's intentional and what's not. And I think the occasion needs to come to the account as well. But look, it was a bad tackle, and that's how bad things can happen. But at the end of the day, it was an accident. You see many times, like it's a full contact port. These things are happening in milliseconds.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes almost impossible to pull out of different situations. Okay, so take that situation in isolation. In that moment, what was he supposed to do? Step left, step right, jump over the top of him, stand up with his hands in the air? What do you actually do there?
Previously, I think we've seen referees allow a little bit more in Origin football, and then when it steps up to Test match football, they allow a little bit more again. It's the softening up period. It did seem to be a decision which was pretty much made instantly by the referee, although there was a little bit of hang around. Let's see how badly he is injured, and I think that may have had something to do with it. But it may sound strange, when I'm on the supporting the winning side, but to say that was a shame. It spoils what was obviously going to be a sensational game. But the bosses of the game are trying to get out any sort of illegal play as soon as they can.
I'm really feeling for Joseph right now as well. Good young kid, level head on his shoulders, and just knowing him, he's not that kind of person.
Yeah.
I've never ever seen him try to take someone's head off, right? Yeah. And he's the Origin villain. I'm sure he's going to cop a lot of flack. We didn't actually get to see the best of him in the Origin arena. That was something that I was really excited for. But he's a young kid, 20 years old. He'll bounce back, be back bigger than ever. I won't say if he gets his chance again. I say when. I've just got a feeling that he'll be back there at some stage, whether it's now, whether it's after his stint in rugby or whatever it is. But I know he'll grow for it, but I'm feeling for him at the moment.
You asked a good question there. What is he supposed to do? So we look at defensive structures. So I actually asked a question to Matt King on 360 around how they will handle Reece Walsh, and will they come with that aggressive style defence, the up and in, like the Penrith Panthers did against him, I think, in round 2 or 3 this season when the Broncos travelled down to Penrith. Now, the Panthers went with a very up and in aggressive style, and it resulted in Reece Walsh fracturing his eye socket, stitches, couldn't come back onto the field of play. Now, we've said that a lot of teams employ that strategy. We talk of banning the kickoff. For me, that particular tackle is the most dangerous because the person receiving the football coming out the back of the sweep is blindsided. They can't see where the impact's coming. So their natural reaction is to brace for impact because they can't see it coming. So but they know it's coming, if that makes sense. So if you're Reece Walsh or one of those fullbacks or 5'8" that come out the back of shape, it is natural because you know you're being blindsided to drop. But also from a defensive point of view, it is so difficult to execute because, like you said, when these movements are happening in real time, but in split seconds, the height of the attacker goes from fully upright to then in almost a sitting, crouching position. But it's very difficult to navigate because if you don't have that up and in strategy, what you do is you pressure from the inside, and because of Reece Walsh's pace, he gets to the outside of the third defender, leaving a 3-on-2 situation. So you've got Suaali'is and Lomax coming up against three attackers, and Walsh takes it every time.
Yeah.
So,
and we're still at a period of the game where early in the piece you try to dictate terms to the opposition. You're trying to make sure that they feel as uncomfortable as possible, and you're getting to put the play of your defensive plan in operation in saying, well, okay, that's where one of the great strengths for Queensland's attack comes from. The fullback, if he's coming in, make sure you cut out time and space that's available to him. And it looked to be going absolutely perfectly. And I do think that Walsh did slip a little bit. He went back, and that probably made it look a little bit worse than it actually was. But it it was probably the occurrence that took place where I think that there was very little for the referee to do, and it didn't go on to be one of those things where he walked away, get a little bit of a message from upstairs on what they thought if they've replayed it, and it was a shame that pretty much most people, myself included, thought, well, if New South Wales can win from here, that's going to be an absolute miracle. Only one decision to be made.
Yeah. So you don't think it should have been sent off?
Oh, look, definitely a penalty.
Yeah.
Probably even 10 minutes in the bin.
Yeah.
New South Wales definitely needed to be disadvantaged in some form for that moment, even though it was an accident. But sent off for the whole game, especially that early into the game, I think it was just... It was too hard. You're flat out trying to beat Queensland at the best of times with 13 men. I think their whole game plan changed, the whole defensive structure changed. It was a
Well, I think the only thing that probably ensured that the send-off came was that it looked to be serious. He was laying on the ground. He had his hands straight up, and we've seen some acting going on previously, and I don't suggest that it was last night.
It was sickening, Wally.
It was, but there were a lot of people that probably thought, well, that's a shame. We kind of know how the game's going to go from here.
Yeah,
I think. I can't recall the Penrith player that had that jamming style defence on their left edge that resulted in Reece Walsh having that injury. But we did see Dominic Young in a similar style tackle against Blake Taff against the Bulldogs. Blake Taff, same situation, coming out the back of some shape, slipping in the tackle. Dominic Young comes in, rushes up and in, and then Blake Taff is in a not too dissimilar position as Reece Walsh in a club game, and Blake Taff is in the same point on the ground, hands in the air, eyes at the back of the head, was just completely gone. Dominic Young was sent off. So we've got two examples this season. The latter of those examples being Dominic Young. So for me, my McSmart play of the year of Origin was for Ashley Klein, to send him off. This is all thanks to Macca's. Some things are never a smart idea, but the new McSmart meal at Macca's is actually genius, lads. By the way, you can get 2 cheeseburgers or 2 chicken and cheeseburgers, all one of each, with a small fries and a drink for just $6.95. Available for a limited time. Excludes McDelivery. T's and C's apply. But my McSmart play of Origin was Ashley Klein sending him off, because I've looked at it like this. If he doesn't, and he sin bins Joseph Suaali'is, I think we see 4 or 5 sin bins in that game.
There's only been a couple of send-offs in Origin history.
There hasn't been, but can you imagine the animosity? Like, okay, if you've set the tone that's just a sin bin, I think everything goes out with it. Like game plans, yes, but I just think it goes to a place of like, okay, I want vengeance for that when he comes back on. Suaali'is, we've seen Origin where unfortunately, or games unfortunately become about the referee and the number of sin bins that are involved. I think it would just descend into chaos personally.
Well, if that was the case and guys were going for illegal tackles when he came back on, then they would have deserved to be sent off.
Yeah.
But you cross that bridge when you come to it. But also saying that block play, it's a very difficult play to get right and time perfectly. So the question is, do you try and adjust the way it's defended, or do you adjust the attacking aspects of it? Ideally, he would have been a bit deeper. He would have had a bit more time, and he could have got to the outside of Joey. But then, if you're a little bit late, split seconds, just the same as in defence. If you're a little bit late, split seconds, it can be a completely different outcome. So,
he's just about to receive the ball, and I think all three of us, if we saw an opponent in our playing days waiting to get the ball and having the opportunity of trying to break him in half, we do exactly that.
Really, I mean, I know we like to see really dynamic play, fast play, all that kind of thing, but you can't have people in the attacking team confident that they can run around with a dinner suit on.
Yes,
and get hurt,
exactly.
You know?
I 100% agree, and it's something you said before. has been on my mind. You said about you're going to hurt people, but you're not going to injure people.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a player out there in the modern game today that goes out in looking to injure people.
Not like the old days. I mean, when I was growing up, especially in your era, Wally, guys just clearly trying to break people's jaws and things like that. Those
days are gone, and rightly so. Do you think maybe the game needs to look at, if we're going to put player safety and foul play and bring the send-off in a bit more frequently for incidences like this? Now, the frequency, it's not happening every game, it's not happening every week, but we understand it does happen. Like the examples of Reece Walsh, the first couple of games against Penrith, Dominic Young against the Bulldogs for the Roosters, and here in the biggest game of the year so far. Does the game need to consider looking at different ways to manage the send-off? So Reece Walsh, Joseph Suaali'is is gone after 7 minutes, so Blues have to play for 73 minutes basically with 12 players. Does it need to look at, okay, we're going to remove Joseph from the game, and then the Blues can enact their 18th player at the 10 minutes after the penalty?
I don't know. That's probably a bit above my pay grade, that one.
But do you see how that could work? So that player is removed. He can't enter the play. Yeah. But instead of it being 12 on 13 for the entirety of the game.
So rewinding, the difficult thing for me is, okay, let's say you're a club coach or a New South Wales coach. How do you coach to say, let's have this never happen again? You can't really. You can't really change defensive styles or like, how do you train? Like, he obviously, I know him personally, I don't think he intentionally tried to do it, but how do you coach to not do that again?
Yeah. I've got no doubt that he was intending to make the tackle as painful as possible, but not illegally. He wouldn't have had any intentions of going in there with the plan of, I'll knock his head off and fix him up for the game. That would have been pure stupidity. Yeah. That was an accident, what's happened. You could see it was written all over his face, and at the end of it, he knew he was in a little bit of trouble. And to leave your team one player short in a match of that grade is just that's a no sense.
Well, then therefore, Wally, would it make sense to red card the player, send the player off, but the team, New South Wales, is only down to 12 players for 10 minutes? So you get the optics of, okay, we're going to penalise this foul play.
Yeah, I see
that individual is removed and will face a suspension, but the product, the game, is not going to be affected, because unfortunately the game was affected by it. There's no doubting that.
I see what you're saying, but then it's going to open the door to claims of, hang on, they only picked that bloke to go in there and take somebody out, get out, knowing that another player will come in and fill that one.
So we're going to go, does that incentivise, let's get after the star player, we'll lose someone for 10 minutes, and then happy days, he's just gone.
Well, you lose someone for 10 minutes in an Origin game, and the game could be over. I don't think
could you extend it to 20 minutes? Because we do want 13 on 13, but we've got to. We are a game that has to penalise foul play.
And I think the send off for 10 minutes is penalty enough. Like, let's say he came back on, and Queensland scored 3 tries in that 10 minutes. That's pretty much game over anyway. Yeah. Right.
It's probably a bit hard to go that and have it on an equal penalty to somebody that does a professional foul, stops a bloke playing the ball quick. Rather match that up against someone getting their head knocked off. I think you'll sort of entice a lot of the critics of the game coming in there. There's no answer to it, really. It was an accident that happened, and
there is
as a Queenslander, we probably thought, this is a massive bonus for us, but it wasn't something that appeared to be intentional at all. It was an accident. And accidents take place in a footy game,
multiple times.
There's no perfect solution for this, and obviously. We're talking as, I'm a fan of Origin, you're a former Blue, you're a former Queensland player. And look, we have our emotional pulls on it, but the bosses of the game, they've got more on the line. They've got the product to look after, but they've also got the optics, and we've all had our issues with head injuries and the ramifications for that. So the bosses of the game, they do have a duty of care, and to showcase that sort of play, even though it is accidental, which we're not debating or suggesting otherwise, needs to be shown to be punishable by send-off. So the game's bosses are stuck between a rock and a hard place in terms of we've got this product we want to protect, but we've also got the image of the game.
That's for the individual player and the coaches, because I'll say, if you put yourself in Joseph's position, how does he do it differently in that situation? What does he do differently?
Is the responsibility solely on the defender not to make contact with the head, no matter the circumstance? So, is that what the game is saying?
But how could he? What would you have done in that instance?
Yeah. Well, I find that, look, he had one intention, and then it was to race up out of the line, put on a tackle that was as painful as possible, but a tackle that was legal. He wanted to knock the living daylights.
When he turned his face away, I think he was at chest level there or thereabouts.
But then,
I still think it became a lot worse when Walsh slipped a little bit.
Yeah.
He went backwards, and he was sort of on his way towards slipping over, and that made the tackle look a lot worse than what it actually was.
That said, the result of the tackle was seeing a player.
Yeah, the optics were horrible.
Yeah.
Very bad for the game with so many people watching. But it is what happens in the game in a full contact sport.
I think
no matter what rules what we put on it, it's going to continue to happen long into the future whilst people are having full contact. There'll be instances where accidents happen, people slip, split-second timing, fatigue, all that kind of thing, and it's going to happen again and again. I think penalties should be enforced for something like that with the optics of that. Send them off for a period of time, but I just think the full send-off was just too harsh.
Wingy, you asked about what's Joseph supposed to do. It is now the message, because if he gets his opportunity again and does that in the 7th minute, I think we'll see the same action. So
exactly. Yeah.
So then, therefore, those players that play on the centre and the wing, that have that aggressive up and in style of defence, do they need to change their mindset of, I need to almost prepare myself and not go as hard, because Suaali'is, he races out the line, and when you're running at full speed,
if he's half a second later and he's on the outside, bang, they're down the sideline, scoring a try.
Yeah.
But then is that something that, well, what's the worst? What's the lesser of two evils? You concede on your outside, or you're down, or maybe your scramble comes into play.
Yeah.
You
the second you put something like that into play, those block plays will be more prevalent. Backs will be running that play all the time because
they know the fear of the.
You're going to catch the opposition out every single time.
Or does the centre maybe, or someone, the centre or the winger, that they need to tempo it differently?
Yeah.
Or do then the coach...
We'd like to do that.
Yeah,
we'd like to come up with perfect tackles.
I know.
In the pressure situation where they're racing up out of the line and probably thought, well, Queensland, they got an extra man here on us. They're attacking 5-on-4. The chance of getting through here. You're not going to think about that too much. You're going to want to race up out of the line.
The other thing you've got to consider as well, this is, and I've always, I always think about my mates sitting at the pub criticising my game whilst they're having a beer. All the air they need in their lungs, their head's not spinning. Yeah. Once you bring fatigue into play, leg fatigue, head fatigue, no oxygen, head spinning, you're barely trying to get to the line. Things start to get a bit sloppy, and that's just the nature of the game as well.
Well, again, because of the consequence of that tackle going wrong, and what is the lesser of two evils, would coaches now, this is not just at State of Origin level, but across all levels of the game, instead of up and in and jam style defence, inside pressure defence and push them to the sidelines. Now, I know that would help the pacier players, which you could argue is not necessarily a bad thing, but coaches are always looking to gain a competitive advantage. You don't gain a competitive advantage when you're down to 12, especially for the whole game. So if you're a coach or a coach in waiting, do you look to go up and out, up and inside pressure, keep pushing them to the sideline? And yes, you might concede a try, but you're not going to lose a player.
I don't know what you do there. Like, let's say, hypothetically, you tried to ban the up and in defence. Well, then why wouldn't you be banning the block play? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, it's not banning it.
I know,
it's coaches trying to think and outsmart opposition and almost as well. If say Origin was replayed tomorrow and everyone's fit and healthy, Reece Walsh is now expecting that jam defence, and then it doesn't come, and he wouldn't. Does that make sense? So. You'd almost spook him into thinking this jam is going to come, and then it comes from the inside. And
you're starting to sound like Gus Gordon.
Don't say that.
Or the coaches that didn't let us come up with an excuse for missing tackles. I know what it's all about, and we're searching. We're almost searching for a level of perfection that doesn't exist.
It doesn't.
Accidents
happen. We're looking for
field.
Utopia, and it won't come. I'm of the.
I think the hard thing is. Did New South Wales deserve to be penalised? Yes. Did they deserve to lose the game as a result of it? I don't think so. Or even possibly lose the series.
Yeah. Well, the argument turns around a little bit there and say, well, did they have to lose their star player?
Yeah.
You know, is that the penalty that they pay? Why should they pay that when they weren't at fault?
Yeah.
There's no answers to it, is there?
No,
we're going down the rabbit hole here.
Oh well, we could go on forever.
I know you could. You love it.
I can drag people down with me. Don't worry about that. Just look. I think we're all going to disagree. Punters out there will be screaming, going, "Well, hang on a minute. What about this? What about that?" And because. The passion and the emotion of both sets of supporters, both states, you want to go into bat for one another, and you have each other's back. New South Wales have Joseph's back, Queensland have Reece's back, and say, look, we won fair and square. New South Wales will naturally feel hard done by. I just want to put a couple of things happened, so we'll go with the lighter side of things first. Joseph Suaali'is, he is leaving the field of play. Nate Miles
Good old man.
Says to him, I believe, quoting, enjoy your debut, mate.
Is that what he said?
I believe so, yes.
Right. Gotcha.
Has anyone got a problem with that? I think... Because he's been given an official warning. I think that's pretty witty. To be fair,
it's pretty clever.
I think that's quick.
It is pretty clever.
You know, considering Nate Miles is on the sideline with his headset on, he's probably thinking, obviously Cobbo comes on, what's the rejig? What message do I need to send to my forward? And for him to come up with that on the spot, well, for me, well done, Nate Miles.
He's pretty
Could
clever.
have come up with a lot of things much worse than that, but you're right. It's he's probably not fitting into the Forwards Club there. A lot of his mates would have been saying you could have told him something far worse than that, but that's a clever line.
It is clever, and it's nice to see forwards come up with some clever punchlines from time to time. It's a joke that makes you think.
Yes,
well done, Nate Miles.
I'll give him that one. Well done, Nate.
On a more serious side of things, Reece Walsh is taken from the field of play, and he passes his HIA test, his head injury assessment. I'm gobsmacked that he conducts or participates in a test, because what's the point? But also, do we go to a deeper issue? And hey, I'm going to drag you all down here with this. Is the head injury assessment fit for purpose? If a player that is out cold, spark like this, you know, you could argue that force to the head could potentially kill somebody. Should if he passes a HIA test, is it fit for purpose? For me, it says it's not.
Well, for me, the only way that he could have passed his head injury assessment test was to actually pass it, and I'm making out like I'm passing a football.
Yeah.
He was gone. He was shot. He was all over the place. He got up. He had no balance. To be able to think that he could have recovered in a very short space of time probably makes you lean towards, come on, Doc, do the right thing by us. You know, is there something, I'm okay or he's okay? It's impossible for us to know. We weren't actually there listening to what was being said, but that was a major surprise, I've got to say, just that he was past fit to go
I
back.
agree. I was a little bit shocked. You know, in my career, I'd been knocked out a number of times, and there's a few times where I've played on, and looking back, they're probably things that I really regret. I wish I had someone that sort of had my best interests at heart in those times. Yeah. But that's just not how it was done back then. I'd like to think that we're in a new day and age where, you know, like so much, like Joseph was sent off for that tackle because of what it did, right? Then, you know, if he just passes a test like that after something like that, is that the right thing? Like I'm on board with you guys. And then what's the point of having the test then?
For me, it's not fit for purpose. He shouldn't have one, and it's not fit for purpose. And here's where it becomes really dangerous. So Reece Walsh needs to pass that test in order to play again. The fact that he can pass it 15 minutes after receiving the injury means he will likely pass it again, even though he might not be cleared to play. And, you know, there's... for me, I've said this multiple times, the most important aspect of managing a concussion is honesty. But when players have this test, quote unquote, that they need to pass in order to play, that then gives them the safeguard or the safety net of, if I pass this test that the governing body have introduced in order for me to get back to play, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter that I may be symptomatic. It doesn't matter how I'm feeling. All I need to do is pass this test. And
that's a good point.
If I passed it 10 minutes after receiving the injury, no doubt I'll be able to pass it after 10 days. So for me,
if you've passed it once, you assume that you're right and you're going to pass it again, right?
And the message to all players, and I say this to everybody, when managing concussion, be honest.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit if you pass the test. Yeah. You've got to be honest, because, and I know what it's like to be in that situation where I go, this is the box tick. This is all I need. Who gives a shit what I'm thinking? I've got a bigger game coming up. That's more important. But we need to think carefully about this.
And be careful. And I know we all know players that we either played with or watched throughout their careers. And we've had the opportunity to look at them and probably think, geez, you know, he's taken far too many knocks to the head, and you fear for the players that have got a very poor future in front of them with memory issues, and that's one way of doing it. So. You know, I'm sure I'm like everybody else. We want the doctors to do the right thing and make sure they have the right call. But again, I'm sure the three of us have had the opportunity where we felt concussed in a game, and the only thing that we wanted to do was get back onto the field.
Yeah. And that's just your instinct, right?
Yeah.
Half the time it just comes down to instinct. It's like, get up, I'm right, move forward. But then now that I'm retired, I think back on it. I think that is just so stupid.
Yep.
You know, there's a whilst you're in the rugby league bubble, you think that that's all there is. You know, it's
and you kind of have to be like that, right?
The universe, your problems are everybody's problems, but
we think we're 10 foot tall and bulletproof.
But I got to say, after you retire, there's a lot of living to do, and there's a whole new life, and you certainly need your brain intact. I'll tell you that.
Well, we're going into things away from origin here, but that is young people being young and doing reckless things and putting football on a pedestal. It's Goldman's dilemma. It's you kind of need to be that way inclined. For me, like I say, the worry is you've got this test.
So is it just one doctor, or is there three doctors that make the decision? You know, like is that the thing?
In terms of the return to, there is a protocol in return to play, and there there are markers that you have to achieve and pass, but one of those is that test, which you know what. So we're at different eras here. Slightly, ours did overlap, but and it's advanced. But you know the psyche of the player of if this is the gold standard of test, and this test tells me I am passed, then you have that maybe false sense of security that you are okay.
Well, the
to
other
go
thing
onto the field of play and engage in action again.
But the other thing is, if you've passed the test but you don't go through with it, then you're letting your teammates down. Well, because your teammates look at, well, you've passed the test, so what's wrong with you?
Yeah. There's another element of it. Hang on a minute. You've passed this gold standard test that the governing body says all you need to do. Well, not all you need to do, but one the final tick off is this test.
Yeah.
And now you're saying, you don't feel up to it. It's a
big one.
It is. We'll get into the game. Queensland out of the blocks. Wally, the first try I thought was really impressive.
Yeah, I wasn't really surprised by the way that they started, having watched the sessions that they put together. And after a couple of, in his second years in charge, Billy Slater, he just seems to have this plan, which is very Melbourne Storm-like at their best times. And there was some concern when Cam Munster wasn't in the Queensland team. There was the fear that Queensland's attacking ability wasn't going to be as good as it has been with Munster in the side. So I thought that the way that they sort of structured their plays and the territory that the lesser knowns, the new faces in the Queensland side were able to come up with was quite good. I know that at the end of the game, Billy sort of said, there'll be guys that get a lot of credit for this, including the man of the match, but the boys that did it for me were the guys that nobody expected to be the stars of the show.
The hammer was sensational. Moving into fullback, his support play was.
He can run, can't he?
Oh, jeez. Oh,
wow.
I think you watch him in motion, and for bigger guys like me, it's just not fair.
Well, I was in that. I think I had the tag of the fattest 5'8" in Origin history that couldn't run fast.
How does he move his legs so quickly but so effortlessly? It's just
great to watch.
Fair. It is.
Well, not if you're if with the opposition, but that is an athlete.
Yeah, nothing beats speed, hey?
No, it doesn't.
Oh, no.
It really doesn't. Wingy, New South Wales down 6-0. Down to 12 men. What did you make of their performance from there on in?
Oh, look, there was... When you lose a player, you can't just go through your normal structured game plan because you're just never going to get an overlap. You're basically trying to rely on one-on-one missed tackles. It makes it so much easier for the defensive team. You've got to try and do something a little bit out of character, out of the box. There were moments there I thought that they dug in, and I raised my eyebrows and I could see the spirit was there. But it was just, and at times they got into some good field position and had some opportunity. But like when you're coming up against a defensive line and they've got the numerical advantage every way that you go, you just no hope. And I think Cherry Evans did pretty well. He just took control of the game. He just did all the right things, just played the timeout, got that nice 40-20, controlled the momentum, and just knew that it would just eventually get to where it did at the end.
I thought New South Wales did well to remain in the contest for as long as they did. I think when it got to 20 points to 6, I was a little bit worried there. I thought, no, it's gonna. This is gonna.
The gates have opened.
Really run away early in the piece. Heads were down, but they showed some spirit and some tick in New South Wales, which I think Maguire will be very proud of. I think maybe after Tedesco's try and a couple of kickoff set, they were rolling through the middle. The first set after half time rolled through the middle, long kick chase. Dragged the Queensland defender back inside the in goal. The first set off the kickoff. That's very impressive and shows that New South Wales weren't willing to lie down
Yeah.
and die and cop
Yeah.
shellacking from Queensland. They showed plenty of spirit, and I think the state should be proud of the efforts, especially from minutes 20 to about 60.
Yeah. And the other thing is that being a man down, you got to work a lot harder as well. And just being out on an Origin field with 13 players, that's hard enough as it is. It's the fastest game you ever play. But when you actually have to make up all the stuff that one guy does as well, it's really hard. The hard thing is for New South Wales, where do you go from here? Do you judge guys based on how they played with 12 men, or do you kind of go back and think, well, that was my team?
It also puts a lot of
look like with 13.
Yeah, it puts a lot of pressure on the coach, the rotation policy, in how they're going around, giving the guys so much on the field when they come from the field to have a rest, making sure that they're in great condition when they go back on there. So it's a smart play, and I thought he handled that pretty well.
Yeah, how do you sit there and think, well, how am I going to plan for having 12 men for most of the game?
Yeah,
I don't think that's crossed anyone's mind.
You make a good point in terms of like how do you mark the performance?
Yeah,
how do you analyse the performance?
That's a really tough thing for me, because once it goes down to game plan's out the window because that's not going to work. We're just going to base it on individual effort. There's a lot of individual effort out there, and there was times that we managed to swing the momentum back our way, but it was inevitable that you got the best of the best in Queensland, just slowly picking us apart.
Yeah, and I think, like I say, for me, New South Wales should be very proud of their efforts. It was always going to catch up with them. It did in the last sort of 15 minutes with 3 tries going to Queensland. I think the Ben Hunt one, Ben Hunt, and then the coach put it beyond all doubt before Hammer sealed it. For me, watching New South Wales when they were down to 12, there was criticism of the lack of change or immediate change, but critical thinking is very difficult, especially when things are moving so quickly and you've got fatigue and emotion pulling at you. So they switched Crichton sides. And that, whether it's coincidence, it stopped the flow down that side. Maybe Queensland didn't adjust, but you can't make that call straight away. You can't make the call to move, because if you move Crichton from the left centre to the right centre, then the left side is short. So
I think so. For me, the only solutions there, and this is how I used to play. It's all about adjusting your defensive line, and I look to my winger, centre, half on each side of the field, and they really. So when let's say they score down the right hand side, I'm looking at what the left hand side winger, centre, and half have done.
On the
other side, because you have to push the whole line across. There's always going to be an overlap somewhere, and the line has to work twice as hard. You have to push them laterally, and primarily the wingers and centres, because you got to think the big boys are in the middle. They're not talking. They're making 100 tackles. When I was defending out on the edges, I always saw it as my role. If I wasn't tackling, I was talking, and you're either pushing or pulling people. And that's the only way that you might have been able to get enough numbers and counter. And then the opposition's halves' jobs are to see where they're short, and they're trying to shift you from side to side to side to side. Hard thing with Origin is, because it's happening so quick, you look up and you see no one in front of you, opposition centre wing, and you think, this is my chance to have a breather. Well, you've actually let the guys down on the opposite edge, centre and winger, because your job at that moment was to push everyone across to try and cover it.
Yeah.
So that was probably one thing that I'd look at. Another thing for the New South Wales guys, I thought there was too many one-on-one missed tackles.
Okay.
If you can get your hands to them, you've got to make that tackle. It's just unacceptable to be falling off or let someone push you off. That was probably one thing. And I thought our kicking game didn't put enough pressure on them as well.
We'll talk about the potential changes. Nico Hines, number 7 for New South Wales, is always going to come under the microscope. Yeah,
more so than any other position.
More so than any other position.
Particularly on a losing side.
On a losing side. I'll just ask straight out. Does he keep his spot for game 2?
I don't know. That's definitely a coach's call, but we do definitely need a better kicking game.
And the man to fill those shoes would be Mitchell Moses, right?
Both field position kicking. Also organising the play before the kick so that you have some space and having a clear kick, and also the attacking kicking. Just little things that Cherry Evans did, little kicks he did here and there. They just put pressure on us, and I didn't feel like we had enough moments like that where we were able to put any kind of pressure on them.
And even at 13-on-13, look, Hines kicked a 7-tackle restart step. Queensland got up the other end and scored. Now, that try for me, it should have been shut down. They shouldn't have been allowed that easier passage. Jeremiah Nene, great quick play the ball, and then Cherry Evans out of dummy half. There should have been a better process, but people will put the microscope on Nico. Do you think he keeps his spot, Wally?
Well, I'll probably come up with a couple of other names and deal with the coach in what he thinks would be the best for New South Wales. Cherry Evans was wonderful for Queensland. The leadership that he displayed, the carry that he took forward and placing Queensland in an attacking position virtually every time he carted the ball through. That was obviously missing, and to say who's going to be able to do it, I guess it's a big decision to be made, and I think the coach will probably come up with a bit of a plan on.
Well, Mitchell Moses was fantastic in his return for Parramatta against Nico Hines' Cronulla Sharks last week. He gets another crack at the whip against the Bulldogs on Monday. He'd be, the front and centre candidate with Nathan looking like he's a little bit away.
Yeah. Well, I agree that if he had a good return match, obviously people are going to say, well, he deserves to do it. This time or the next time, he could be up against it in a slightly tougher opposition that he'll be dealing it with in the Origin encounter. But there has to be a couple of changes made in the New South Wales side. As a Queenslander, I couldn't care less what they are, to be honest. But I do expect poor decisions are very rarely made in the selection process, particularly with New South Wales, and I think that they'll make sure that they get a lot more creative skills on display from the halfback.
Tedesco, do you think he'll keep his spot? Obviously, Edwards likely to be back for game 2.
Yeah, that's a really tough one. I thought. Look, definitely Dylan Edwards deserved his position in the team. You've got to look across the whole team, and I thought going into it, they've picked the team on form. They went the whole hog. That was great. I even felt that if there was two guys that were sort of neck and neck, they'd probably went for the guy that didn't have Origin experience over one that did. Get rid of any scar tissue there. Felt very bad for Dylan Edwards. I actually had a big chat to him before the game, just in preparation what to expect, and I was really excited to see him play. In saying that, I don't think they lost anything bringing Teddy back in, and I thought he was a huge bonus for them because a lot of debutants, I thought there was going to come a time in the game where it would be an arm wrestle, it'd be neck and neck, and they'd be looking for a leader, and he would be that guy. I thought he started off like a house on fire. For me, I never understood the criticism of Teddy because in every game that I've seen him play, he's always in the top 3 on the field.
Great player.
His effort, his reliability, the difference between his good games and his bad games, the spread is so small.
Yeah.
And I think he's an inspirational leader, but obviously the coach has got a tough decision to make, and I don't know where you go to from there.
And sometimes players get selection in because of their ability to work in partnerships with others that they've had a lot of experience. And I thought if Cleary had been around, it would have been simple decision made. Stick Edwards in there; he'll work with him 100%. They've done it, with monotonous regularity at club level throughout the year, and I couldn't see why they wouldn't be able to do it in Origin.
I think one of the hard things for Teddy is we're so used to seeing him break so many tackles, and particularly 1-on-1, 2-on-1. But then when he's only breaking 1 or 2 tackles when it's 4-on-1, he's had a terrible game, and that's how it is.
That's the standard he's set, right?
Yeah,
he's a victim of his own success.
Yeah, and then even on that game on the last night, we lose a man, our game plan goes out the window, and it kind of went back to him just trying to do it on himself, trying to beat 4 guys at one go. And he had a crack and he tried to do it, but it's different if you're running at 1-on-1 plays and you've got other guys in the team that's taking the heat off you, and all of a sudden you can sneak up and oh yeah, I've got this guy, and then you beat him. It's a different story there.
All right, I've got 2 questions to wrap this episode up. Firstly, New South Wales lose their centre. Is this the stage for Latrell Mitchell to come and take over and potentially win this Origin series for New South Wales? For me, it's written in the stars.
I've got to say, I probably, after watching him, his performances in previous years at representative level, you pick him in the team straight away. He'd be in there. As to what's been behind a little bit of a disappointing display at club level, I don't know. To be honest, I can probably try and guess or read what a lot of the journos are coming up with their magic assessment of a disappointing display. But the cold hard facts are he's been able to be successful at the highest level in rugby league previously. Can he do it again? Well, I'd suggest that he's still got that ability. Will he do it at Origin? Well, what are the selectors going to do?
Yeah, I think someone goes through a rough patch, which he clearly is. But it's there for a man like him. I think if New South Wales are any chance, they need to get Latrell Mitchell in there.
I probably look at it like this. I mean, Queensland have shown countless times you pick the right person, put them in the Origin arena, and they can stand up and deliver. Latrell's the kind of guy where he doesn't. You just put him in the right environment, in the right headspace, and he can do amazing things. He'd certainly have the potential, provided he's fit, he's healthy. So the other thing that Latrell brings with him is, if the opposition looks at who they've got in front of him, he instills a bit of fear. Like, can I tackle this guy? Similar to the way Greg Inglis was.
Yeah.
Can I tackle this guy? Is he going to do something? What's he going to do that's a little bit out of the box? Which I felt like our team lacks just a little bit of.
But also, if New South Wales is going to win the series, they've got to win in Melbourne and they've got to win in Queensland.
But
Latrell will embrace the villain.
Yeah,
and
he will.
Like the stage is set, the stars. It's written in the stars for me. I think
the flip
sport
side
gives
of
us
that,
so much about like redemption stories and heroes and villains.
It'll be the most amazing story. That's for sure. The flip side of that is, if he's not 100%. Someone like Billy Slater combined with Cherry Evans, they'll pick him apart.
Yeah.
Risk reward for Michael Maguire.
Reward.
Wally, is the series over? Queensland, it's theirs?
Never is over until the result of the second game comes out. I think we've seen with almost monotonous regularity previously what sort of game 2 is. It'll pull out the best from both sides. One needing to wanting to wrap the series up, the other needing to keep it alive. It'll be a bell ringer, an absolute bell ringer. This one. I guess the teams, the selection process will have a lot to do with it in who's injured, who can play, who can't play. So it'll be there'll be a fair bit of pressure attached to the kickoff, the moments after kickoff in game 2.
Yeah.
Wingy, do New South Wales have a chance?
Oh, always got a chance. I mean, I would look at it from this way if I was New South Wales. Backs against the wall, serious underdogs now. What a great position to be in, and very real opportunity of get the job done in Melbourne. Then there's an opportunity to play in a decider up in Queensland in front of them. And if you won a decider up there in front of them, for a New South Wales person, there couldn't be a greater moment in sport.
Yeah, well, I think for New South Wales, do you believe in miracles?
But it's a big task. It's a big task, but the boys have got the whole state behind them. They got the best of the best in the state to choose from. So there's no reason why they can't get it done if they're in the right headspace and they pick the right team and they got the right game plan. But Queensland, they'll have a few surprises in game 2. I've got no doubt.
Well, I think we're all looking forward to game 2 and what will transpire, the selections. all the subplots that go into a great State of Origin series. That's it for the bye-round recap of State of Origin 2. Thank you, Craig Wing.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Wally Lewis. Let us know your thoughts in the comments on that controversial sending off. Can New South Wales win? Is it Queensland? Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll catch you soon.